from the Metropolitan Police Department over to DDOT. Reason being, and this goes along with the name of the name change to automatic safety cameras, is that what we do is all about safety. And then I want to also preempt, we don't give tickets. People have to generate a ticket. They have to do a behavior to cause a ticket to or violation to occur. So we want to make sure we let people know that we do not stand on this corner and give out tickets. One thing with the movement from MPD over to DDOT is that we've come into an environment where the automated safety camera is one tool in the toolbox that DDOT uses to mitigate traffic. The biggest piece of that, as Charlie said, is speeding. Speeding is the foundation for most of the violations that we have. So you have to be speeding to run the red light, you have to be speeding to run the stop sign, you have to be speeding when you're just speeding, particularly around school zones where we have a lot of emphasis. Moving over to DDOT also gave us something that we really needed, was what is a documented, data-driven process to select locations so we can tell the full story of why is this camera here. Also to know when we get to compliance. I'm sure many of you already may know if you've been interested in following the program, is that we move the cameras around. The program is dynamic. We want to put the cameras where they need to be. We want to optimize our investment here in the District of Columbia. So that just gives you some background on what we're doing. As Charlie said, we do red light, we do stop sign, we do speed. And then what we've added is the truck restricted roads. And then we've added the clear lanes project, which you can see it's an example of that. Right now it's safe to park there out in front of the building, but in rush hour it is not. And then we're also supporting our most vulnerable citizens, and those are students on school buses.
Yeah, I just want to underline the level of transparency and the level of rigor and data-driven strategy that go into this program. It's really unprecedented, and it manifests itself in the safety benefits that I keep repeating, but also I think in community buy-in. I think Charles can tell you about going to community meetings and hearing about people thanking him for these cameras. We get requests for these cameras from all 8 wards. As part of the automated traffic enforcement task force that we did in 2023, we did a survey of DC residents. Support for these cameras was 70% or above in every ward, and that's a testament to the transparency and the rigor that go into the program. And this is another effort to try to again think about all elements of the program and be innovative and evaluate what we're doing.
Yeah, and we'll provide you a copy of the link, asc.dot.dc.gov, as we speak to the transparency. Everything is there, the reporting, the volumetric data, and most importantly for the citizens, where the cameras are located. It's broken down by ward.
This time, I think Sam's going to walk us through the program. Sure.
Thank you all for coming today. My name is Sam Quinney. I'm the director of the lab at DC, which is in the Office of the City Administrator. You might be familiar with our work, but if you're not, what we do is help agencies across district government design, target, and test their programs so that we understand what is going to work best for residents and help district government achieve its goals. Charles and Charlie talked a bit about background of our ASC cameras and also the why behind this pilot. I'm going to talk more about the how, and the lab's role in this has been working with the partners you see at this table, as well as with support from the DMV, to help set this up as what I think of as a really authentic pilot. This is something that is innovative. It's been tried in different ways, different versions of it in other places, but not in this specific way. And there's a lot of questions and interest in about how does this work and what do you get out of it? And I think one of the things that our government does very well is not only to innovate, but also to set things up in a way that allows us to really learn from it and make decisions about whether or not something like this program or others deserves to be a part of our government services and functions long-term, or if it's something we need to rethink. And so I think this is a great example of setting something up that's innovative, where we're trying something, but we're also really emphasizing learning from it. And I'm gonna go into how we do that. So our role has been to help design and the pilot, and also we will be doing the evaluation of it, which is ongoing. Charlie gave a lot of the background on what this pilot is, but a lot of that is displayed on the slides here. But really what we're talking about is a one-time 50% reduction in a $100 ASC ticket, so the lowest level of severity for tickets. And that is for families who receive SNAP from DC, so receive food stamps from DC. As Charlie mentioned, these are the lowest level of severity. The Probably the most common example, I think, would be the 11 to 15 miles per hour over the speed limit. And these need to be issued to DC plates. So there's two levels of eligibility here. You need to receive an eligible ticket, which is all of those things that I said, but you also need to be from an eligible household. And so eligible households for this pilot are households who live in DC, receive SNAP from DC, and who have already only applied once for this program with an eligible application and ticket. So they need to meet both of those two criteria: eligible ticket, which is about what they received in the mail for a ticket, and then be an eligible family. And this process is going to show and give you a bit of a demo of how we do that. But before we get into that demo, a little bit of a background on how we're evaluating it. So this is really key to think about beforehand if you're actually going to learn as well as possible from it. And when we think about program evaluation, the best way to do that, to understand what the impact of a program is by setting it up as a randomized evaluation, and we're very proud that we've been able to do that here. This is particularly important because we're measuring both the pilot's impact on roadway safety and on repayment, and we want to be able to separate out this pilot from all of the other things that are going on and affecting both driving and finances in the district. So Charlie mentioned the growth in cameras over the year. There's a number of factors that affect people's driving behavior on roadways. But as everybody here is obviously aware, there's a lot going on that is happening in the district that is affecting people financially. And so by setting this up as a randomized pilot, we're able to basically account for all of those things and really just isolate what happens when you give a low-income family receiving SNAP this reduction in their ticket one time. So the chart that you see up here just goes through the overall flow and how we're evaluating it. And we'll walk through this in a minute, but essentially if you're issued a qualifying ticket, you'll receive an insert in the mail with your ticket that tells you about the program and how to apply, and you'll see that in a minute. The applicants then need to go online to apply. Through the application, and then after the application, we do an eligibility screening to make sure that they're qualified for it. And here's where the important part for the evaluation comes in, is that applications are then split into ones who randomly receive the discount and ones that randomly do not receive the discount. So they get the standard $100 ticket if they're not randomized into the pilot. And then we'll track those two groups over time over the course of the pilot. And we'll be measuring two main things that we're really going to hang our hat on in terms of the outputs from this pilot. Payment rates, so how many people pay, and we're going to measure that actually at the far end of it, which is how many tickets are sent to collections for both groups in this pilot, and then driving safety. So how many future citations are people getting when they get a half-price discount versus when they pay the full normal amount. Any questions on this before I get into the timeline and the demo? Okay, great. And of course, all of this is already represented on our website for the lab, and we'll be reporting the results there as we have them. Brief timeline for this. So the program rules for it were finalized and issued on May 9th. Towards the end of May, we started what's called a soft launch period. So you may have seen on social media or other places where a few people have posted about the tickets. The DMV has also provided some proactive information so people understood that we were in a soft launch of this. But basically, this is a chance for us to send out a limited number of these inserts and tickets and test out our application process, figure out how well it is working both on the front end for applicants and then on the back end as we adjust people's ticket amounts for when they receive it. The full launch started last week, which means that all qualifying tickets are receiving inserts. And those inserts, because of the time that it takes to print and get them in the mail, will start hitting mailboxes right around now. We anticipate today, tomorrow, Wednesday will be when the first ones, for the full launch are being issued. The pilot will run until we receive 3,000 eligible applications or 120 days passes, whichever of those two is there. So if it goes the full 120 days, that'll take us into November for it, and then we'll start measuring and reporting results. And so I'm going to walk through now how this actually works, which I think we have some examples for folks. Does everybody have?
Yep.
Printed examples, yeah.
Does everybody have one of these? So if you haven't already opened them, I don't know if anyone here has ever received one of these before. So maybe it's a new experience, maybe it's not, but this is a mock-up of the ticket. And so what you have in front of you are 2 documents that people will receive in the mail. The first is just their standard infraction notice. This is a fake person, Annie Driver. But this is an example of what a qualifying ticket would look like and what people will need to apply. And then you'll see our insert, which is the thing that only goes to these specific tickets that are $100 to DC tags. And so this gives the information about it. You're welcome to follow the QR code or the URL there to look at it on your own, but the reason we're going to walk through a demo of this is if you didn't receive one of these tickets, or if you don't receive SNAP in the district, you're going to get to a stopping point in the application. And we really don't want people who aren't eligible to be spending time applying. We want them to spend the time paying their infractions or going through anything else that they need to as part of the ticket. So if we have our AV working correctly, this is going to be a video that will walk through the application process. We really think as long as people have their documents beforehand, it can take as little as five minutes for it. It takes maximum 10 minutes as you go through it. The other important piece of information that you'll see in there, which I think everybody has, is, again, a fake proof of benefits. And this is a document that the Department of Human Services and Department of Healthcare Finance provide specifically to residents when they need something to certify their income for program involvement or for other purposes. And so it's a specific certification that's meant for these types of things. And so residents are instructed to have that ready and also how to do that, but you'll see that represented here. So I'm just gonna talk through the demo. It lags for a second. Actually, hang on 1 second. No matter how many times you test it. It's playing on another screen. I'll try this on a different screen. Right, is that one coming up? Yes. All right. So this is a version of a mobile view of it, as we expect most people will apply on their phones, and we can also send you a copy of this recording afterwards. I'm going to pause it for a second mid-scroll. But really the starting page is we want people to understand, again, who is eligible and what will happen. So you'll see a lot of that here. You'll also see how this lottery is run and why we are doing it that way, and that's to evaluate it. And then a really important section coming up, which is know before you start. We want people to make sure that they're eligible, but also have the right documents for it. And so that's both the ticket and that proof of SNAP eligibility. So all of that is up front in there. And again, we want people to see this, understand if this is for them, and if not, go about their day. But if they are eligible, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to apply for it. And so this will continue through that part of it. Also talks a bit about the program, what happens after they apply, frequently asked questions if anyone needs it, and then should move on to the next one in just a second. If I didn't pause it, sorry. So the next page, we just need to get people's contact information. Again, if somebody doesn't complete it or stops, or for whatever reason we need to get in touch with them, we want that. And then this page takes them to just a certification of their eligibility. So we want people to, again, up front check, are they eligible? And this is for Annie Driver, who's our fake example driver and received the ticket. The next thing that they need to do is take that proof of benefits and upload either a PDF or a picture of it. We're guessing most people use a picture because most people do this on their phone. And then on this screen, they'll need to copy in some information of that, again, allowing us to verify from different aspects of it and tell people whether they are eligible or not as early as possible in the process. And that, again, this is the notice date. And this is important because we want to make sure that people are currently eligible. So if you don't receive SNAP now or this year, you wouldn't be eligible for it. But if people are, we want that. The next thing we want to do is check if people are eligible. This is just for people to say they haven't entered into the lottery before and that they haven't paid or contested their ticket. And that's a part of it too. If people have already done that, they're not eligible for it. This next screen is going to take us through the information that people need to provide on their ticket. And then we match that after the fact about what is eligible. Again, just certifying a lot of the things that about their eligibility. And if they put in different things, it'll tell them, necessarily you're not eligible for this. This is a $200 ticket or it's already past 30 days. And then finally, a little bit more information on the ticket itself. You can see takes us a minute to put in the numbers. Hopefully that gives a realistic example of how long it takes and that it can really be done in 5 to 10 minutes for someone who's applying. And those two aspects of it are largely what people need to supply. And then they need to certify that they understand the lottery and some specifications of that. And then we get into some more information that's just useful for the evaluation. This is an optional page on people's demographics, which doesn't affect their standing in the lottery and they can apply without it, but it helps us understand if this program is working better for certain groups rather than others after the fact. And then we of course want to share the results with the people who participate in this pilot. So this last question just allows people to say how they would like to hear the results of the pilot. So not of their ticket, but what we learned from it. This is just a certification page so people can check and go back and change anything. And then they need to certify that the information they provided is correct and that they understand the different aspects of it here. Then they submit. This is our customer satisfaction page. We want a lot of smiley faces here, but if we're seeing less than smiley faces, that'll give the team an idea that we need to go back and look through where people seem to be getting stuck, potentially reach out to people to understand how could this application work better for you. And this last page is just the certification page of receipt. Goes through the next steps and what happens. This is also emailed to the applicants as well. So they'll be told if they weren't eligible for the pilot is one thing. And they'll also be told if they were eligible and they received the discount or if they were eligible and they were not selected to receive the discount, and it lays out what they need to do next, which for either group is to go pay your ticket. And they'll receive this within 5 days of applying for it. And that is the end of the demo. So I'm going to turn it back to Charlie to close out.
Sure.
This part of it.
Yeah, I just want to mention again the genesis of this program was research done by a multi-agency team that was part of the task force in 2023. One of the big takeaways was that this is absolutely an innovative approach, partially because we're one of the few cities that has a program of this scale and this nature, but also it's innovative, but in that it's going to offer a discount to folks based on what we know about their income. But what we found in our research on related programs was that it did not have an effect on people's likelihood of violating or likelihood of doing it again. So we have reason to believe that it's going to achieve the multiple goals that we have, which is maintain the effective deterrence of the program while also mitigating the financial effects. So.
All right, thank you, Terry. Before we switch to on the record, we'll do on the record questions with Charlie and Sam. I want to see, does anyone have questions about the ASC program Get out of hot seat, whatever you want to do. And then at this time, we can be on the record, so if you have questions for Sam or Charlie, feel free to pepper them as you wish.
Great.
Mr. Wilson, is there any indication in the research that you've done leading up to this that SNAP recipients don't pay their traffic tickets at a disproportionately higher rate than those in the general public who do not receive SNAP benefits?
So the question was whether folks who receive SNAP benefits are less likely to pay than the general public. That wasn't part of our analysis. The reason we centered on this population was because it was a group that we knew was low income, and it was a population that we could basically track and confirm. So we know that it represents a low income group, and we wanted to test that. We are interested, as you're implying, in the payment rates. And we're curious to see, it is possible, we're going to compare not necessarily historic data. Part of the thing Sam's team is doing is they're going to compare folks who got the discount and folks who did not, who are otherwise in similar positions. We're going to compare folks who got the discount and folks who did not, drivers who got the discount and drivers who did not, and see if there's a difference in the payment or their likelihood of getting another ticket. So we will be checking that. We're interested in that question, but less because of a historical payment rate.
Let me follow up just real quickly about payment rate.
Yeah.
Across the board, SNAP, general public, within the subset of district residents, what is the payment rate? Is it 62%, 70%? What is your general compliance rate?
Among district residents, most people pay their tickets. If you're talking about individual license plates that receive a ticket. We could get back to you with the exact percentage, but yeah, most people pay their tickets, and that's actually, most people pay no matter where they're from, if you're talking about individual folks who get tickets, and then we have reason to believe it would vary based on income levels. It's likely to vary.
We have 65%.
Okay, 65%.
So
that's the district, that's DC, okay, 65% is your payment rate.
Two-thirds.
Correct.
And the other 33% go to a collection agency?
That's right. There's an internal group, yep, that we could.
And Charlie, could you maybe add your comparison of repayment rates on any other maybe
Sure.
penalty? Yeah, I
Sure.
think that's good
This
info.
is something that I've shared with folks that 65% without sort of some kind of relevant comparison can be a little bit hard to evaluate. And one of the things I've said off and on over the years is that might shock some folks to know that the percentage of American taxpayers who actually file their taxes is like in the 80s. So and you can go to jail for not doing that. So we're talking about, if you're talking about effective payment rates, 65 is actually, it's a pretty good number considering what you see in some other comparable programs. So.
Can you talk about, you said other places are doing this differently. Can you say a little bit about other approaches and why you guys
Are you ready?
chose this
Yeah,
one?
Sure.
Yeah, so there's several other examples of jurisdictions doing income-based fines, and the underpinning of it is that a flat fine is always going to be felt differently for someone of low income than someone of moderate or high income, and so it's been tried out with traffic tickets in other jurisdictions as well as misdemeanor offenses, and so some of the examples are in California when if you're a low income individual, you can go into the court system and ask for a fine reduction if you're low income. And in California, they find that it increases the repayment rates when people are given that reduction. And that's one of the underpinnings of this. But importantly, in that system, you have to go to the courts and file a claim for it. What we're doing here is bringing that into the process so that more people hopefully are able to access it and understand it. There's also evidence from Oklahoma and Milwaukee in programs. The Oklahoma study is more recent than that, where they look at other offenses and look at recidivism in this sense, because these are for misdemeanor offenses in Oklahoma, that they find when people get their fines reduced, they don't see any impact on recidivism, so that if you reduce the fine, it doesn't make someone more likely to have a future offense. And so those are examples from other places. We really want to test it out for safety cameras, and we want to test it for DC and DC residents and understand whether we are getting any better repayment rates while also maintaining safety on the roadways.
So there's nowhere else that's done this specifically for?
For traffic cameras and for this population in this way, but there's other versions of it in other jurisdictions, as far as I'm aware.
That's right. That sounds right to me. I mean, again, as far as we know. And then I do want to emphasize actually bringing together both of these questions, because based on what we find from this pilot, we're not necessarily limiting ourselves to running to, if this works perfectly, yeah, maybe we'll just, make it permanent the way it looks. But there's lots of different permutations and options that could come out of this. We're running the pilot this way so that we can do it in a limited amount of time and know that we can compare similar populations and see the effects of the program. But based on what we learned, we could end up with recommendations for a slightly different version, that might look more like California's version or something like that.
Do you guys have any early results? You said it started last week. Has anything come in?
No, not other than the soft launch, which was only about the functionality of the system and making sure that the user experience is what we want it to be, at least at the outset. It will take time because when someone gets a ticket, so the first tickets were issued last week. The due date for those tickets, the initial due date is going to be 30 days out. At that point, that's when their ticket doubles. And so in order to capture the effects, we need to be looking over a longer window. But as soon as we have them, we'll be reporting them on the lab's website.
When this first got some coverage, we did get some, these are not results like you're asking for necessarily, but we got a lot of positive feedback from folks. I think it resonated with people, this idea that if you're, the district is looking at the financial implications and thinking about it in this purposeful way. We got a lot of positive feedback there.
And what do we tell the drivers from Maryland and Virginia?
Well, in terms of, I was mentioning the payment rates for individual drivers is actually pretty high. And then the main thing that, from where I sit, thinking about the safety implications of this program, what I know is that the number of vehicles and drivers slowing down around these cameras is almost all, and that number is getting better over time. So that's telling me something. I think that's a testament to the approach that Charles's team takes, is thinking about not just putting the cameras anywhere, but thinking about where are the places where if we put this camera, we're going to have that marginal effect, right? Like people are going to know that camera's there, and they're going to slow down just enough to prevent those crashes, as opposed to just putting them somewhere where there's speeding generally, right? They're thinking about it in this strategic and data-driven way, and the effects are shown in that way. And we see, what I'm tracking, because you can track it on a daily basis, is that compliance rate, and that feels like from that perspective we're having success. Similarly, I'm not going to attribute it. You could never attribute our traffic safety outcomes to any one thing, but we're about a year since we've massively improved and increased the size and footprint of this program. And in this calendar year, we're having we're on track to be our 4th consecutive year of decreasing major injuries on our roadways. And in terms of fatalities, we're at the lowest level mid-year since the mayor made the Vision Zero commitment. So in those ways, we're seeing a lot of positive returns.
But they're not eligible for this program. It has to be a DC.
Oh, in terms of,
For this one, no.
Again, in a future iteration, maybe there's a way to account for that. It's definitely challenging to get. Well, Sam can speak in more detail, but it's harder to get reliable information about incomes of somebody from another jurisdiction. But there's certainly potential ways to do it.
Mr. Wilson, can you expand on those numbers? Because I think you just made a little news here where you talked about the number of traffic deaths, because going into last fall, the numbers were pretty bad. They showed that the number of deaths were up, and there were a number of 9 deaths, I believe, within the length of a football field from a traffic camera. So where are, at the midpoint of the year, the hypothetical midpoint of the year, where are traffic deaths in the district right now?
So at the midpoint, which would have been the end of June, we were at 9 traffic fatalities, and that was the lowest number since at least 2012. So that's an encouraging thing. But what I also mentioned, and I want to repeat, is that if you look at our major injuries, which is another, Vision Zero has the goal of eliminating not just fatalities, but major injuries as well. That number has been dropping. Basically, COVID scrambled everything, but the bottom line was 2021 was a rough year for that, because it was kind of the perfect storm of people were out and about again, but not, there was still the COVID sort of behavior change. Anyway, so since 2021, we've seen a consistent, steady decrease in those major injuries since 2021, and all of those numbers since COVID are lower than what we were seeing pre-COVID. So in those ways, we feel like we're seeing we're seeing steady progress, and then this year with the fatalities, that indicator is also extremely positive. No one's declaring victory. We're still talking about lives lost here, but definitely positive results. And I would absolutely applaud the work of Charles's team. But Charles said this, and I'll spend a little more time on it. Automated traffic enforcement, one of the things I said was they're data-driven in where they place them. Not only are they data-driven in where they place them, but they're also working in coordination with the teams that build new safety interventions. So often they're going in, the best example, if everybody hasn't had the opportunity yet, Charles and I will take you out to Wheeler Road Southeast. And we can show you a picture from before, and we can take you to what it looks like now. And what we did there was we changed the way the roadway looks and operates in a way that encouraged people to slow down, and we used the cameras to reinforce that. So the cameras were not just put out there as like a Hail Mary, right? It was part of a larger effort. It was a tool in the toolbox. And so, we can have, we're eager to do an additional, briefing about all of that in very soon. So.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Vision Zero press release on mid-year numbers will be hitting your inbox very soon.
Yep.
So look out for that.
To that point, is this 9 deaths of motorists, or are we talking a combined motorists and pedestrians, or motorcyclists? What's the breakdown?
Anytime we talk about traffic fatalities, it's a combination. It includes anybody traveling in any manner. So drivers, people riding in those cars, people walking, people on bikes, people on scooters.
All encompassing.
So that number includes all of them, yes.
And it's at 9 in compared to where was it a year ago? Where was it a year ago?
I don't want to do it off the top of my head. Well, but we can follow up for sure. I believe it was we've had a couple in July, so I think we're at 11 compared to about 32 this time last year. So the numbers are pretty profound on the fatality side. But again, there's also this steady decline that's continuing on our major injuries as well, which I think is equally telling.
Are people slowing down? Are they not driving along, MacArthur Boulevard at 70 miles an hour or along Wisconsin Avenue? Are they starting to get the message?
I think it's again, it's a combination of things. Absolutely, people's driving behavior plays a role in this. Additionally, I think it's the cumulative effect of a lot of the safety interventions that we've done, including programs like automated safety cameras. So, yeah, I think it's a combination.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yep.
Really kind of in the weeds here, but would someone be able to apply even after the ticket doubles? Like if they get 200, or do they have to do it before 30 days?
No, they have to apply within 30 days. And if they apply, then they have an additional 30 days to pay their ticket, if they receive the discount.
And I know you guys have always said that this isn't about revenue, but obviously this is going to cost them money. Have you guys estimated how much money you would be losing relative to what you would be making if everybody paid those tickets?
It's I don't have the exact number in front of me, but given that the pilot is only 3,000 individuals and roughly half, and only roughly half of them will receive them, it's very small from a revenue standpoint of it, and we're talking about these $50 tickets and 1 ticket per person, and so the implications of it are relatively small. If it increases repayment rates, and we get that sign that it is lowering the financial burden of it, there's a chance that it's closer to revenue neutral.
Right. If you think about it, to sort of editorialize for a second, if you think about somebody who's on SNAP benefits, that's somebody with an extremely tight cash flow situation, and the difference between their ability to pay a $100 ticket and a $50 ticket could be pretty profound. So you might actually see more people are able to pay that $50 ticket. Anyway, that's what Sam's saying about how it could end up being revenue neutral if you think about that ability. And again, it does double after 30 days, which is a challenge.
All right, and one last question.
absolutely. I can start on that. So the results of that are public, and if you join the lab's newsletter mailing list, you'll get it in your inbox, or you will have. But there's two main results from that pilot, also with the Vision Zero team, another example of innovating in this work. But we were able to identify in a model the roughly around 65% of the vehicles that were going to be in crashes in the next year. And so that was a successful part of it. When we sent messages to encourage safety to individuals, we didn't find any effect on their future driving behavior. And if you go to our website, you can see a full write-up of that. And I also encourage you, there's a blog as well where both Charlie and Charles discuss what this means for their work in terms of safety cameras.
What I would say is, so if you think about the typical communications campaign that's trying to reach a target audience, there's ways you can try to guess who's your target audience. Well, the beauty of the data that we have with the cameras is that we know exactly who we need to reach. And we know exactly, and so we can tailor that message to exactly the right folks. So that in and of itself, again, Sam mentioned that predictive model, we also found as part of this effort that the likelihood, folks who get tickets, more tickets or certain types of tickets are more likely to be involved in crashes. So if you can affect the future behavior of those folks, you're going to have this meaningful effect on traffic safety. So those two things are so profound that what it tells me is not that we should shrug our shoulders and say, oh, too bad it didn't work this time. We should be thinking, okay, we sent one message, because again, it was a pilot. We wanted to sort of test out an approach. What we can do next time is, based on what we learned, we can change that message. We can tailor that message even more specifically to different populations. We can send more than one message. I think my communications colleagues could help me out, but I imagine to reach folks to the extent that they're going to change their behavior, you probably have to reach them 5, 6, 10 times, right? 7 times is what I'm seeing. So if you can, maybe we'll aim closer to 7 messages next time to think about how we reach these folks. But again, the basis. In my book, the basis for trying that pilot still stands, and it's still really profound, which is we are able to use the traffic citation data to know who we should be talking to, and then we can tailor that message using all the best research to figure out exactly what kind of message is going to resonate with people. But we're going to keep trying. This is something. It's also, if you think about the the cost per unit, cost per message, it's low enough that if you can drive any kind of change, it's something that's worth trying and innovating. But yeah, thanks for the question, and we're happy to talk more in more detail. But check out the blog; it kind of talks through the whole thing.
Your fire has a date here of August the 15th that this will expire, but you had mentioned that it could go into November. So.
Absolutely, yeah. The pilot will run until we reach that 3,000 eligible applicant mark or November. So we want to give people a sense that they need to that there are limited spots in the program, so that people will apply. And so so as we keep track of the number of applications, we'll adjust the information that are given to people as to how long we anticipate the funds being available for the pilot.
So how far along are you now of reaching that ultimate pot of 3,000?
We are at 0 because we do not. The inserts will have just be arriving in people's mailboxes this week.
So there are no people who got like a sneak view or got a chance.
So about 3,000 will have gotten the soft launch ones, but for testing of them, and so we will have gone through a small number of people in the soft launch. That have gone through the process and had their fines reduced, or or received the just standard fine amount.
Okay, so it's actually sort of starting as of right now. So it's
absolutely, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so that's about making sure that the experience for residents is what we want it to be, which is something that where it functions for them both when they're applying, and we learned some important things from that. But also when we get into the payment system and making adjustments to it, that is all working for it. So we wanted to, before we were sending this to everyone, we wanted to be really sure that the experience for residents is going to be as good as we can make it for the purposes of this pilot.
Do you have an estimate of how many people qualify? Like, what percent of tickets go to people who?
We do not. So the district government doesn't collect ticket information based on income or program enrollment, because there might not be a reason for that in terms of ticketing. So we had to do some estimates as part of the task force that thought up this pilot. But honestly, we don't know how many people who receive SNAP are going to also get these tickets. So that's an important part of the pilot, is trying to understand what is the population that would be served by this.
How did you come up with estimates, right? Because I assume, you could just take the proportion of people who get SNAP benefits, but I think people who qualify for SNAP benefits are less likely to own a car, right? So.
Not necessarily. Sometimes people are of low income actually have to live further from public transportation. So we honestly don't know what the population is, but largely there's more detail on it in the task force report. But it was essentially taking the number of tickets, taking the percentage of district residents who receive SNAP, and doing some estimation from there. But it's still educated guesswork as to just because they live in the district and they receive SNAP doesn't mean that they would receive more violations or less violations. So we really need to do the pilot even just to understand the underlying population and how many people could benefit from this if it were scaled.
You guys know how many tickets per day you send out? Is there an estimate?
I can get that number. On a daily basis, let me check.
Okay.
Because one thing with DC different than any other city I've worked in, the tourists drive a lot of the numbers during this time of the year. So I'll get you an estimate.
Okay.
And I'll again, a plug. A member of the public or a reporter will be able to look that up for, last month or whatever it is, right? So you can actually look that number up. You have to kind of play with some drop downs, but you can see how many tickets were issued in the last week. You can split it by camera type and that kind of thing. So
That's
the level
all.
of transparency is there. So yep. And we're happy to provide it. But yeah, just wanted to mention that as well. That it's out there, as a matter of public information.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, are the school bus camera tickets?
They're out there.
Live. They're live. Yeah.
They're live. Much less utilization of school buses this time of year. So that number will be lower at this time of year.
And if I have it correctly,
That one would not be eligible. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, they're not eligible.
Yeah, that's an extremely unsafe. That's an unsafe, egregious behavior that would not be eligible for this pilot.
And that is in the FAQ section of the website, because it's always useful for me to understand which tickets qualify, and I know that is not one of them.
Any final questions? All right, well, thank you all for being here. A big thank you to our team at DDOT and also our team at DMV for partnering up with the Vision Zero team and the lab to do this. Please let us know if there are any follow-up materials you need or questions, one-on-one interviews, anything like that.
The traffic death numbers, as we talked about,
Yes.
that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely. We can send those over, and there'll be more on that as a larger press release. I'd say within the next 2 weeks or so. So there'll be a larger story, but we'll definitely get it
Sooner.
for this. Sooner, got it. No, I'll get you the numbers today.
Yeah, we'll get you the
for
numbers.
your story. Yeah, but yeah, let us know if there's anything else we can do. Thank you all.